I'm Jenna. In our family home, there were always two pedestals. One was reserved for my sister, Rachel, gleaming, polished, already labeled for her future as Rachel, the corporate lawyer. The other pedestal was supposed to be mine. It always stayed empty. My passion didn't belong in our pristine New England suburb. It wasn't elegant or impressive. What I loved was the scent of sawdust and walnut, the rough touch of sandpaper against my skin. I was a woodworker. To my father, Robert, that meant grimy, unskilled labor. To my mother, Susan, it was nothing but a social embarrassment. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Like no matter how much effort you put in, you'd never be enough? Tell me if you've ever felt that way in the comments. That dynamic was cemented early. I remember being 12 and spending an entire month carving a set of tiny, detailed wooden birds. I was so proud of them. I showed them to my mom. She gave me that polite, tight smile and said, "Oh, that's nice, Jenna. Just make sure you clean up the sawdust." A week later, I found the birds in the trash. That same weekend, Rachel won a regional debate tournament. My dad cleared an entire section of the living room bookshelf for her trophy, even went out and bought a brand new shelf just to display it. And the cruelest part? He asked me to help him assemble it. As the years went by, the gap only widened. When Rachel graduated law school, she landed a position at a prestigious firm in the city with a six-figure signing bonus. My parents threw an extravagant celebration, the biggest I'd ever seen. Their country club friends filled the room, clinking glasses and congratulating my father. "You must be so proud, Robert," they said. And he was chest puffed out, glowing. "That's my girl," he'd beam. A real career. Around that same time, I landed my first serious commission. A local chef had seen my work and wanted a set of handcrafted cutting boards for his restaurant. It was my first professional job. I made a few $100s and was thrilled. I came home holding the check, eager to tell my parents. My mom frowned. "Cutting boards? Like for vegetables?" My dad didn't even glance up from his newspaper. He just scoffed. "A few hundred? Your sister's bonus is more than most people make in a year. When are you going to stop playing with splinters and get a real job, Jenna?" At the time, I didn't fully grasp what that meant. I just felt the familiar sting of being dismissed again. But now, looking back, I understand it perfectly. Our family wasn't really a family. It was a system, a narcissistic one. Rachel was the golden child. She did everything right, her success reflecting theirs. Every award, every title, proof to the world that they were perfect parents. She was their shining mirror. And me, I was the scapegoat. I was the odd one out, the reminder that not everything about them sparkled. I became the target for their frustration, their disappointment, their insecurities about their own image. It didn't matter how hard I tried. My role was already written. I was the problem. It was never about me or Rachel. It was about them, their egos, their need for validation. I spent years trying to win a game that had been fixed from the very beginning. I just didn't know yet that the only way to win was to stop playing. But that realization came later, after the humiliation. The breaking point came on my parents' 30th wedding anniversary. I decided this would be the moment. I'd create something so breathtaking, so undeniable, they'd finally see me for who I was. They'd have to admit that my craft was real, that I was real. I spent months in my little garage workshop, pouring every ounce of skill and hope into one piece, a 12-person dining table made from a single slab of solid black walnut with hand-carved joinery. It was, without question, my masterpiece. I arranged to have it delivered the morning of their anniversary party. I got there early, heart racing, barely able to breathe. I imagined my mother's gasp, my father's stunned silence, maybe, for once, a hint of pride. The delivery truck arrived. The table was carried into their grand dining room and placed right in the center. It looked perfect. As guests began to file in, country club friends in glittering attire, I stood quietly near the table, waiting. Then my father, Robert, walked in, a champagne glass in hand, laughing with the guest. He stopped mid-sentence, staring at the table. The chatter faded. This was the moment. He looked at my mother, then at me. His expression wasn't pride. It was disgust. "What is this?" he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. I swallowed hard. "It's for your anniversary. I made it." He gave a sharp, mocking laugh, the kind that cuts right through you. "You made it, Jenna?" "I ordered catering for this event, not a high school shop project." Then he turned to my mother. "Susan, why is this thing in our dining room?" Before I could even respond, he waved over two of the catering staff. "You too," he barked, jabbing a finger toward the table. "Get this thing out of here. Take it to the curb. Let the garbage collectors handle it." The room went utterly still. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "Take it to the curb," he repeated, his voice slicing through the silence. Then his cold eyes locked on me. "I've spent 20 years trying to save you from this humiliation," he said. "We gave you every opportunity to become respectable, like your sister. If you insist on being some blue-collar laborer, that's your choice, but no daughter of mine will live that way." He gestured sharply toward the door. "Get out. You're not welcome here anymore." I turned to my mother. She stared into her champagne glass, refusing to look at me. My sister, Rachel, looked ghostly pale, but she stayed silent. So I walked out. I didn't cry. Not yet. When I reached my car, parked down the street, I sat there trembling, staring at the house that had never truly felt like home. And then I saw it, two caterers struggling under the weight of my masterpiece, carrying it out the front door, dragging it down the driveway. They left it on the curb beside the recycling bins. All that work, all that hope, sitting there, waiting for the trash truck. That's when the tears came, hot and furious. But then, just as quickly, something else settled over me. A strange, cold clarity. I realized that table hadn't been a gift at all. It had been a plea. My last desperate attempt to win their approval. Approval they were never going to give. As I watched a car swerve around the table, my beautiful table, left on the street like garbage, the final flicker of that desperate hope inside me died. And in its place, something new was born. We're all raised to believe that blood is thicker than water, a phrase used to demand loyalty, to justify cruelty. But no one tells you what to do when that blood turns poisonous. That night, I learned something life-changing. Being disowned only hurts if you still want to belong. For me, it wasn't rejection. It was release. I started the car and drove away. For the first time, I was free to build a life entirely my own. For years, that's how long it had been since I left that house, since I'd watched my table dragged to the curb. For years of silence. In that time, I didn't just build a life, I built an empire. The dusty little garage workshop was gone. In its place stood Artisan Grain Studio, a 5,000 square foot workshop and showroom tucked inside a renovated warehouse district. The air smelled of white oak and fresh coffee. I had a team of 6 now. Our designs were appearing in magazines I once only dreamed of reading. I was no longer the girl begging for validation. I was the boss, the artist. And I wasn't alone. There was Elias, my fiancé, a man who adored the scent of sawdust in my hair and said my calloused hands were beautiful. Together, we were creating our own home, filled with pieces we designed and built ourselves. I was happy, truly, deeply happy. The ache of my old family had faded, replaced by the warmth of the one I'd made. Then, one quiet Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. I was sketching a new chair design when the name flashed across the screen. Susan. My heart didn't leap. It didn't ache. It simply stopped. For years of silence, and now this. I wiped the graphite from my hands and answered. "Hello." Her voice was exactly as I remembered, clipped, controlled, and cold. "Jenna, I'm glad I caught you." No greeting. No warmth. "How are you?" she added mechanically. I said nothing. "What do you need, Susan?" A sigh followed, one of practiced annoyance. "It's your sister, Rachel. Her firm's been through a round of layoffs. It's a dreadful market right now." I waited. I knew this wasn't a social call. "She's been looking for weeks, and frankly, it's becoming an embarrassment," she went on. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said evenly. "Yes, well," she continued briskly. "Your father and I have discussed it, and we've come up with a solution." Of course they had. "Robert and I agree," she said. her tone shifting into that falsely professional cadence she used when delivering orders disguised as favors. You should give Rachel a job. I almost laughed. A job? Doing what? We're a bit overqualified for a receptionist here. Her voice sharpened instantly. Don't be difficult, Jenna. A real position. With her legal expertise, she could manage the business side, clients, finances, operations. Obviously, that's not your strength. You can handle the wood. I said nothing. The audacity of it, the breathtaking arrogance, left me momentarily speechless. After 4 years, after cutting me off, after tossing my creation out with the trash. Now they were calling to demand I hand over control of the company I had built to the golden child, so I could be exactly what they'd always accused me of being. Jenna, did you hear me? Susan snapped, impatience seeping through her voice. It's the perfect arrangement. It'll help Rachel rebuild her confidence. I have to go, I said, my voice cool and sharp as steel. Wait, we're not finished. But I hung up. For a long moment, I stood there, phone in hand. I thought I'd feel anger, maybe hurt, but all I felt was exhaustion. And then something small and dark began to stir inside me. Not anger, not sadness, pity, not for Rachel, for them. That's all they ever were, broken, arrogant, obsessed with control, even over the daughter they'd thrown away. I silenced my phone and turned back to my designs, convinced that was the end of it. I had hung up on my mother. I'd made my decision. I went back to my routine, to Alias, to my work. But a week later, my phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. I almost ignored it, almost. Something made me swipe to answer. Hello, Jenna. My stomach dropped. It was Rachel. I hadn't heard that voice in 4 years, not since that awful party. Instinctively, I built my walls back up, bracing for the next attack. Rachel, I said sharply, if this is about the job Mom called about, the answer is no. I'm not. Jenna, please. Her voice wasn't sharp or commanding this time. It was trembling. She was crying. I could hear her struggling to breathe. Please, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I didn't know they reached out to you. I swear I would never ask them to. I'm so embarrassed. I froze, completely blindsided. This wasn't the confrontation I'd prepared for. The anger I'd been holding onto just evaporated. What are you talking about? I asked quietly. I didn't know they were going to do that, she cried. I've been crashing at a friend's place. I lost my job, Jenna. I lost everything. And when I finally told them, they looked at me the same way they looked at you. She drew in a shaky breath. I'm not a lawyer anymore. And suddenly, I'm not their daughter either. I just listened, my mind spinning. You have to understand, she said, desperate now. You think you were the only one trapped? Yours was just visible, Jenna. Mine was gilded. The golden child's cage. Her words tumbled out between sobs. I was the one who had to be perfect. The one who had to get flawless grades, win debate trophies, get into the Ivy League law school, land the 6-figure job. All of it so they could feel important. So they could brag to their friends at the country club. Rachel, I whispered. I never knew. Of course you didn't. How could you, she said, a bitter laugh cutting through her tears. I hated it all. I hated law school. I hated every 60-hour week at that soul-sucking firm. But it was the only way to get them to look at me with pride, with love. Her voice broke. And the second that was gone, the second I failed, that love disappeared. Just like that. I wasn't their daughter anymore, Jenna. I was their status symbol. And when I lost the status, I was as disposable as your table on the curb. I sank into my chair, stunned. All the jealousy, all the resentment I'd carried toward my perfect sister, it had all been a lie. She wasn't my rival. She'd been another casualty. Rachel, I whispered. Where are you? We talked for hours, for the first time ever, not as the scapegoat and the golden child, but simply as sisters. She told me she was done with law. She was scared, but thinking about studying landscape architecture, something she'd secretly loved her whole life. And for the first time, I felt proud of her. But something still nagged at me, a missing piece I couldn't ignore. Rachel, I said softly, I'm really glad you called. But I have to ask, how did you know I'd be okay back then? After the party, I almost gave up woodworking completely. There was a long silence. I heard her take an unsteady breath. You almost did, she whispered. What do you mean? I asked. You were so broken, Jenna. I was terrified you'd give in to them, that you'd just take that real job Dad kept screaming about. So what happened? I asked, confused. What changed everything for my studio? It all traced back to that one life-changing commission, the project that launched my name into the world. I still remember it clearly. It felt unreal. Just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, an anonymous order came in out of nowhere. A newly established law firm downtown wanted their entire office designed. Desks, a conference table, bookshelves, everything. That job became the turning point. It paid for my first studio lease. It funded my first assistant. It was the spark that started it all. I smiled just recalling it, that unbelievable stroke of luck. Who was it? I'd asked so many times. For years, I tried to uncover who had commissioned it so I could thank them, but every trail led to some holding company. Then Rachel went quiet on the other end of the line. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. It was a new law firm, Jenna, she said softly. My law firm. I froze, the phone suddenly heavy in my hand. What do you mean? I stammered. Do you remember that six-figure signing bonus? She asked, her voice breaking. The one they threw that huge celebration for? My mind started racing, piecing it all together. The timing, the secrecy, the firm's name. Rachel, no. I used every penny of it, she admitted, tears streaming now. I knew I was a fraud, Jenna. Just someone who followed orders. But you were the real artist. I couldn't let them crush you. I couldn't let them win. I sat there in silence, surrounded by the studio she had secretly made possible. The business I believed I'd built alone. For years, I saw her as my rival, the one who had it all. But in truth, she'd been my hidden benefactor, my sister, my unseen supporter. After that call, my anger toward our parents finally dissolved. What replaced it wasn't forgiveness exactly, more a calm, cold pity. They weren't cruel, they were just hollow. So when my mother, Susan, called a few days later, her tone sharp as ever. Well, have you spoken to Robert? We expect you to do the right thing for your sister. I didn't feel anger anymore, just a quiet certainty. Hello, Susan, I said evenly. Jenna, stop this nonsense. Your father's furious. You will hire Rachel. She starts Monday. I took a breath, looking out over the busy studio, the one Rachel had helped me create. No, I said simply. The silence that followed was thick. What did you just say? I said no. I won't give Rachel a job and I won't be helping you. I paused, then added, but I will help her as her sister. We're planning her next steps for landscape architecture school. A sharp inhale came through the line. You what? Landscape? That's just gardening. She's a lawyer. You've brainwashed her, you ungrateful. Goodbye, Susan, I said and ended the call. That was the last time we ever spoke. Rachel later told me what happened. When she announced she was leaving law to study design, our parents did the only thing they knew how to do. They cut her off. Then they made sure everyone at the country club heard their version. Two ungrateful daughters, one a carpenter, the other a fallen lawyer who plays in the dirt. Now it's just Robert and Susan alone in that big, quiet house filled with perfect furniture and emptiness. Their pedestals are bare. Meanwhile, Artisan Grain Studio is busier than ever. The scent of fresh-cut maple and espresso fills the air. My fiancé, Elias, just stopped by with my favorite coffee. I'm at my drafting table, sketching a new chair, intricate and elegant. I'm so lost in my work that I don't hear the door open. You're going to burn yourself out, you know, a familiar voice teases. I look up. It's Rachel, holding 2 coffees and a roll of blueprints under her arm. She's glowing. Her hair's in a messy bun, a smudge of charcoal on her cheek. She unrolls her plans on a slab of reclaimed white oak I've been saving. The drawings are stunning, a concept for an outdoor showroom surrounded by green space. Got a minute, she grins. I've got an idea for the new courtyard. If we use native grasses, we can make it sustainable. I smile, pick up my pencil, and join her. 2 sisters, finally creating something together. It took me 30 years to understand that family isn't something you're simply born into. It's something you build, and it's worth building with the strongest materials. Thank you for listening to my story. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about crafting a life on your own terms. Now I want to know, who's part of your chosen family?